so that we could be here today to celebrate today's book launch event. And we want to welcome the ancestors in the house. It's our desire that they will take control of today's proceedings, today's events. We want to celebrate our ancestors, those that have gone before us, those who have paved the way so that we could be where we are today. You know, we give honor and respect to each and every one of them. And in particular, for today's proceeding, we want to give our ancestors a humongous thank you, send them a humongous thank you for our sister Bakhet Ma'at, who has spent a considerable amount of her time writing this book, which is now available, The Black Mother Wound, a KHEMETIC Centered Thought Remedy. And if you go to the chat, there's a link that will take you to her website where you can access the book. There is a lot more information on her website. Her YouTube links are there as well. So do make sure that you copy those links, or just click it now and have it open as a separate screen on your page. Anyway, just in case you're wondering, who's this person babbling along? My name is Sista Shanice, and I'm honored to be the host of today's book launch event. I'm a mother, an auntie, a sister, a daughter, and some will say to some extent successful as well, Black African woman. And I'm the host of a powerful independent news channel that centers on an Afrocentric perspective. I interview some of the most prolific members of our community. I'm honored to have been able to have interviewed some great members of our community, and I've got more lined up for you as well. But today, it's not about my event, so I'm going to keep that to a minimum, but only just to say that I've also recently authored a book, and you can find out about that from the links in the chat as well. So remember, family, remember, we are Black authors and we look to you to support. There are a number of authors in the house today, but I am honored to be celebrating our sister Bakhet. So welcome to today's Black Mother Wound event again. Just to let you know that the book, The Black Mother Wound, is available on Amazon. You can get it via Kindle, and you can also get a paperback copy as well. So this evening, we're joined by the author, Bakhet Ma'at Sat Ra, founder of Zamani2Sasa.org. And I am privileged, as I said, to be sitting alongside our beautiful sister Bakhet and Dr. Clyde Winters, our esteemed guest and educator for today's event. And we are all privileged to have you, each and every one of you, in the audience as well. So we're sending our thoughts of healing, we're sending our thoughts of well-being, to our sister Amra as well, who unfortunately won't be able to join us this evening, but we know that her beautiful spirit is in the house with us today. And we've also, just to let you know, going to be rescheduling an interview with our brother Edison. He is just absolutely phenomenal and awesome. And so keep tuning in to Sister Bakhet's YouTube channel, because she's going to be doing a special interview with our brother Edison Abanji from the Ancestral Essence. So yeah, stay tuned and subscribe to Zamani2Sasa on YouTube, okay, to be part of that live interview that's going to be following up. And you can get the information throughout the night in the chat. So you'll have all the links that you need so that you can subscribe to her channel. Okay, so let me just check. Have we got someone who's going to do a libation for us this evening?
Yes, our sister Magina.
Beautiful. Over to you, Sister Magina.
Greetings all. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we're here.
So glad that we managed to get everybody to come and participate in this wonderful session that's going to take place. Thank you, Sister Shanice, for your powerful words of wisdom, just to open up the session and to allow everyone to be centered and focused. I'm just going to come in with a very short prayer, and we can move forward with our session today. So we're calling on the spirit of our ancestors to join us in this space and in this time. As we are guided through this session, I call on the wisdom to prevail. Let the words that are about to be shared leave us feeling strengthened and inspired. Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe.
So I back on to Sister Shanice to take the floor.
Thank you so much, Sister Majida, for that wonderful ancestral greeting there and that libation. Well, without further ado, family, I'm going to introduce to you our beautiful sister of the moment of today, none other than our sister Bakhet, who for the past 22 years has worked with displaced women and girls affected by political and climate trauma. And for most of Bakhet's life, she has lived as an intuitive teacher and student, and has used those skills to organize teaching English as a second language. She's delivered intensive classes in displacement camps throughout 52 countries on 5 continents. The instruction has often been based in language development to affirm empowerment, provision, and protection for women and girls fleeing Eastern geographies for Western colonial spaces. Bakhet majored in English literature and speech communications with a theme focus on institutionalized racism in the US, and holds several professional designations in methodological and global transaction systems development. As she began to understand her own central trauma and the self-determination required to recover from the historical and epigenetic impact of the Black women in her life, the focus became sharing the journey of restoration and how to get into the solution instead of the popular conversation that focuses on Black women as the problem. And you know, what we're going to do here, family, is we're going to share right now a review of the Black Mother Wound from Keiron V, who is an Afrocentric researcher and phenomenologist. After reading the book, this is the review, well, part of the review from Keiron. He said, the author, Sat Ra, 2022, has etched a unique linguistic style of her own that expresses the spiritual, psychological, metaphysical, and historical conditions of the Black female goddess, metamorphosed into a wife, mother, daughter, sister, auntie, or cousin. In short, the foundation of a human is an African mother being. The author's confident, eloquent, linguistic articulation captures the imagination of the reader to allow one to dive into the hidden subconscious realm of human emotional self-butchery perpetuated by second frequency and maintained by the unconscious African female body with automotive behavioral outcomes. The Black Mother Wound book has surgical precision to slice the cancerous growth of inverted racial horror that has saturated the cells of the Black woman for centuries. This battle fatigue and destruction has accumulated over time. Therefore, one is warned to be grounded and prepared to embrace the pain of the trauma in which your hand is held remotely through the author's linguistic program to guide you through like an ancient initiate from your own space and time. What a powerful, powerfully deep review Thank you so much for that. And I have to, you know, ditto and echo what has been said there. My own sentiments, only I wouldn't have been able to put it so wonderfully. We're now going to have a little Q&A session, family. So let's bring on, so this is a Q&A session with the host. And let's bring on our sister Bakhet, because I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here. So please do spotlight yourself, Sister Bakhet.
Okay. Figuring this out. Okay. I think I'm there. Hello, family. I think I'm here. Thank you so much. Thank you for the wonderful introduction and that review. When I hear it, and to hear it spoken aloud by you, oh, it sends chills. It sounds wonderful. And it is. I will say it is. It's a good journey, but it's the way that our brother describes it. Wow.
You said it's a good journey. Tell me, please, and tell us about the journey of writing this book.
The Black Mother Wound, it is the journey of how. It's the how journey. How to transform pain into power, generational pain into generational power. One of the things that I recognized or realized is, you know, outside of our bodies being colonized and our minds and our spirits, something else that's been colonized in our community is our imaginations. And when you look at that word, the image nation, when you realize that when we consider the Black mother, the Black family, the Black woman, the image nation that they exist within for us has been interrupted. There's a conditioning that's gone on. So, and I would even challenge some of the people that are with us today in the chat to visit what sort of image nation you hold the Black mother and Black motherhood in. We have an image nation in proximity to the white settler that says all mothers are good mothers. All mothers love their children. All women are fulfilled by motherhood. Mothers never lie. You know, the Mother's Day industry is $1 billion industry. And when we look at the media, we look at the literature, a lot of the representations are based on characteristics of white settler females in motherhood. And a lot of the attributes that are given in the image nation, in the imagination of Black families, Black children, are attributes that aren't allowed for Black women. They're not assigned to Black women. So when we think back to the images we have of the Brady Bunch mother, the Ozzie and Harriet mother, the you know, I'll even throw Michelle Obama in there, but we have these very strict and restrictive images that we've been allowed. And when it comes to the Black woman and the Black mother, we have the image of the mammy or the image of the Jezebel. So the Black mother wound is that precursor to the first step of restoring and reclaiming our image nation around Black women, around Black motherhood, around Black families and Black parenting. There's these attributes that a lot of Black women weren't allowed to embody. They're still fighting for. We're still today fighting for ownership of Black womanhood in our imaginations. We're still fighting for the ability to parent our children and to lead our families in ways that make sense to us and that draw on our ancestral knowing. So also my experience with the internet coming along, and that became part of the journey as well as my own. It's a reflection of my own journey to self-knowledge, but looking at the internet and being a young woman and hearing the euphemism all the time, you know, no one's going to love you until you love yourself. Well, my response at 14 was, how do you love yourself? The internet has shown up and it's given us even a more expansive imagination of Black womanhood and Black motherhood. And we could easily walk away with the perception that loving yourself looks like pedicures. And when I was growing up, it looked like your purse and your shoes matching and not using red nail polish. There were all types of conditions on what it looked like to love yourself as a Black woman. And so a lot of the information that's out there, if you actually type in toxic Black motherhood to Google, you'll hit some videos that are in excess of 100,000 views. And the young women and sometimes older women who are speaking about the topic, a lot of times they are very angry. They're hurting. There's a lot of bitterness. There's a lot of blame, a lot of shame, a lot of regret, and a lot of focus on the problem, the what of the problem, the when of the problem, the why of the problem. And this is something that's entrenched in our community. We can easily get distracted by the what, the how, and the why of the problem when it comes to our identity in white settler spaces. So it was important to me to get into the solution, the how. How do we take the next step? How do we recover from generations of forced motherhood for children that didn't belong to us, and actually not being allowed to raise our own children? How do we recover from that? How do we imagine healthy Black mother-daughter relationships, healthy Black parenting relationships, healthy Black family dynamics? How do we imagine that? And I'd love to hear back from the chat, some of the images that people were given as a child. Can we even think of and imagine what it sounds like to be inside a healthy Black family dynamic? But yeah, there were a couple of aims in writing the book. First of all, to challenge the narratives and around womanhood and Black motherhood in the image nation. That was the first thing. And to move away from the ideal of the mammy and the Jezebel. As well, it was to begin to restore or reclaim some of that ancestral technology. When I use the word technology, a lot of times we think of technology as something that gives us convenience, but it's not that. Our ancestors are participating with us today, and the demonstrations and the instructions that they left us, they show up as principles and values in our lives, and they are technology. They are tools to manifest an outcome. So resituating the narrative and beginning to reclaim and restore some of that ancestral knowledge into a journey that looks like prioritizing self-knowledge for Black women and Black mothers, and Black women that become Black mothers, Black daughters that become Black mothers, prioritizing self-knowledge, and on that journey, prioritizing self-acceptance, getting to the place where we can be honest with ourselves about the fact that we're not perfect, that we don't have all the answers, that we can't fix anything or anybody else. And when we're in a place of acceptance, then we're finally in a position to really start living and acting out of self-love and what that looks like. Because again, I'm focused on the question of how. How does that look? How does it sound? How does it behave? How does it speak? How does it allow itself to be spoken to? So looking at that journey of how to embody self-love, how to live at our highest frequency in self-love, it really became apparent that a lot of the times it's about doing the next right thing that's in front of us, but for the right reasons. And the ingredients to arrive at that place, or to have that level of consciousness in our lives and in the relationships that we're building, we have got to take the journey to heal ourselves and to have knowledge of ourselves, deep knowledge of ourselves, our strengths, our limitations, our spiritual assets, our spiritual defects, what kind of structures we build when we're in pain. That deep knowledge, it inevitably leads to a more self-loving circumstance in our relationships. So that was my aim. That was my aim. And I feel like I'm proud of the book. I feel like it offers that. If someone is willing to do the work, if they're willing to take the message in and build their own narrative and then apply it and practice it and move through the process, I think there's a lot of opportunity for healing in the book.
Thank you, Bakhet. And you know, there are a lot of mothers and daughters, you know, of Black mothers who need the healing, you know, that you have taken the time to write about. And not only have you written about, you know, the problem, so to speak, but you've also, you said, you know, incorporated within the book the tools that we will need in order to take that journey towards healing and self-love. And so, you know, in the book, you talk about the tools to alter the interfering frequencies, And so I wonder if you could tell us a bit more about those important kemetic-centered tools that you have incorporated in the book as part of the thought remedy. You know, how do these tools interfere with the frequencies that are causing some of the challenges that maybe a wounded mother or daughter could be experiencing?
Absolutely. Sister Medina, can you share the slide? Thank you. So the kemetic-centered thought remedy model, this is something that, again, this book is very reflective of my own journey. And one of the things that I found valuable is that when we are able to be honest about our pain, it becomes really valuable because we can use it to help other people, and we can share that level of compassion that we've gained for ourselves. So the book is organized around a structure that I developed called Kemetic-Centered Thought Remedy, and it's based on the principles of Kemetic spirituality, but it also fills in some of the more contemporary ideas around trauma healing. And one of the aspects of trauma healing is what they call the 4 R's. So if you look at the far left side of this slide, you'll see realize, recognize, respond, resist. And these are the areas that the book is organized around. First of all, to realize the distance that we have to travel to actually prepare ourselves to embody and build a constitution of absolute self-honesty. It's one thing if we, you know, move through life and we fudge with the truth here and there in circumstances, people, places, and things. We're human. But being dishonest with ourselves is unacceptable on any level for us to expect to live in a healthy way. We have got to develop that constitution. So one of the ways that we do that is we look at the characteristics of different aspects of self-honesty. This includes willingness. Willingness is a big one. And looking at that principle and what it means for us and how we embody that in our lives. Recognizing our origin, our history, the generational wounds in our families, in our backgrounds, where our weaknesses are, where our spiritual defects are, where we fall short, and getting honest about that as well. That's why that first step is self-honesty. If we're going to recognize what needs to be healed, we have to be honest with ourselves about where the pain is, where it came from, the shape of it. Because again, remember, we're working on the question, how? So once we recognize, we've got to be able to build a healthy response system for when we encounter situations that make us uncomfortable, when we're in situations where our needs aren't met. This is where, in my own experience, this is where you learn the most about another human being, is who are they when their needs are not being met. This is true of our Black mothers, our Black fathers, our Black daughters, our Black sons. Everything about our character is defined in those moments when we're uncomfortable, we're not getting what we want, and we have to figure out how to negotiate that in relationship to other people. And also to resist the structures that we've built in our lives that may be defense mechanisms. Later this spring, I'll be developing a webinar about attending the Black mother wound. And one of the areas that I expand in a lot is the idea that we each build structures to house our pain and our failure. And if you think of it in terms of a house, if each of us is a house, we have many, many rooms in that house. There are rooms that we never go into again that are full of all kinds of things. There are rooms that we spend most of our time in. There are rooms that we can be triggered into. All of these rooms have shadows in them, have corners, dark corners, and we put things there that we don't want to deal with. Trauma, pain, failure, guilt, regret. If we can take the journey to self-healing, if we can be honest about where we are, what our strengths are, what our defects and assets are, and pull all of the power out of that, then we can resist the automatic trigger to fall back into those behaviors. So for example, in the webinar this spring, one of the examples that I use is the legal eagle room. The legal eagle structures. So imagine in your house, you have a legal eagle room. And in this room, you have the legal eagle personality that comes forward, that denies, justifies, rationalizes, minimizes, spiritualizes every bit of wrongdoing. No matter what someone says to you, you are accountable for. You're ready with a strong argument, a follow-up, an oration, a monologue, an opening and a closing statement, to do everything that you possibly can to avoid accountability. That personality, that trauma structure, excuse me, it can begin to appear to be a personality, and it's not. And some of us may recognize people in our own family who use some of these different structures to avoid accountability and responsibility for their behavior. So we developing a tool set and a set of practices that let us resist being automatically triggered into any behaviors that don't serve us. So one of the things is, if you look at the middle column there, it shows you the actual process, the thought process that I try to support in the work. And one is, first of all, looking very, very honestly about our beliefs. Our beliefs either promote our consciousness or they diminish our consciousness. The external environment of what is happening to us, happening for us, happening through us, all of that is perceived and filtered through our belief system. A lot of times, aggressive behaviors or assaults or things that hurt our feelings or create bad feelings between people, it's really about it's about what we believe about what's happening, the intentions of that person, drawing on memories we've had in the past of someone speaking to us that way or someone behaving in a certain way. It all starts with our beliefs. And I'll share something with you that brought this to light. I was traveling through Turkey, and I stayed in an area that was, I suppose, the red light district. So there were sex workers in the area. And every time I would leave the lodging that I was staying at, one particular person would yell out and scream out to me in Turkish and do this. And my initial response was, kind of like, well, who the hell do you think you are? And what is that supposed to mean? You're trying to tell me to, get out of here, to leave? Or what is that? And my initial response was hostile and rejecting of it, and kind of angry. And I had worked myself up because I started expecting it. Every time I walked out of the lodging, this person would come out of the corner somewhere and start yelling and shooing me away. A week or so went by of this, and a girlfriend who was local to the area happened to be leaving with me one day and saw this. And I had commented on her, like, if this keeps going on, I'm going to turn around and walk towards this person and it's going to get ugly. And she was really surprised. And she said, well, why? She just wants to talk to you. She's telling you to come here so she can talk to you. And I thought, wait, what are you talking about? My belief system tells me that when you want someone to advance, your palm is up and it's open, and you're telling someone to come forward and to share space with you. When your palm is down, you're telling someone to get away from you. That's my belief system. My belief system's not universal. It doesn't create facts. It's not truth, absolute truth. But I'm filtering everything that's going on through my belief system, through my experiences. And those beliefs form my perception of people, places, and things. And based on that perception, I will experience emotions. And I call them emissions in the book because that's what they are. We feel each other before we see or hear each other. We are beings, emotional beings. So one of the things that a lot of people might be familiar with is that we probably have all been told, but I know I have been told, you drop that attitude. It doesn't have to be based on anything I've said or done. It's that I'm emitting my beliefs. I'm emitting what I perceive about the situation, and someone else is able to pick it up. So being able to master our beliefs and own them and be honest about them and reconstruct them and reclaim them and restore them is going to affect our perceptions. And that shift in our perceptions is going to affect what we emit out into the world. And the way that that will show up is it will show up in our attitude, our behavior, and our conversation, and the choices that we make through those different areas. So if you look at the far right side here in the image that's here, the reason that this is constructed this way is because in the background, you'll see the Temple of Amun at Karnak. And you'll recognize that the way that it's constructed, our ancestors left us a map of spiritual ascension and the path to our highest frequency. In this temple at the bottom, you have the forecourt. And this is the area that's around the bottom of our body that ties us and roots us to the earth around us. And you can also see the corresponding aratus, which I believe are called chakras for some people. But in these areas, this is what roots us. This is our first experience is the I am experience, recognizing that we're connected to our environment, we're connected to this land, our community, the God of our understanding. And as we move through the temple to the higher areas of spirituality until you reach the Holy of Holiest, which is at the head, the crown, the top of the temple, the only way to do that is to travel the middle path. And this is called wasetia in Arabic. The middle path through our temple is balance. And we get that principle from Ma'at. The middle path, the ability to balance the intercepting environmental messages, the intercepting beliefs that don't serve us, the intercepting perceptions that don't serve us, the intercepting emotions. We have to be able to balance that so that we can always be centered in our emotions, in our attitude, in our behavior, and our conversation. And this is my KHEMETIC Centered Remedy model. This is the basis for the book and the direction that it travels, the inventories that are there, the things that I ask you to consider and to be honest with yourself is based on an overview and a structure of this model. That was a lot to say, but there's an organization there.
Wow, there certainly is indeed a phenomenal amount of thought and work has obviously gone into that model. Divinely gifted to you, it must be, because, you know, and congrats for breaking down and simplifying that, you know, really kind of scientific model. And that's what everyone with the book will get, you know, a breakdown of that model and how they can actually apply that model in their everyday life to take them on that journey to, you know, center themselves so that they can have a balanced life and reach that higher chakra, you know, where our crown is. Wow, that's phenomenal. A concept that must have been downloaded to you by our ancestors, a very divine concept. And I've got another question for you, because I know in the book you discuss the Wepter ritual.
Yes.
You speak about that in the book. I wonder if you can tell us a bit more about that and why it's important.
Oh, yes, that is the portion of the book that I enjoyed the most. And if there's one piece that I really hope it resonates with us as a community, with Black women, with Black mothers, with Black young women, the Wepet Air is it is a piece, the most important aspect of the Kemetic burial ritual. We see the mummies Tutankhamun and Tutankhamun. the process to prepare our ancestors once they were deceased to move into the ancestral realm, into that form, and to keep their ancestral power present in us. That process was called wepet er. It was the opening of the mouth. And I used that process to compare to the relationship we have with the utterances from our mouths at this point. Sister Magina, can you share that slide? One of the things that is important about that, thank you. One of the things that's important about that process is that it was the way to make sure that our ancestors, once they passed, that they were still able to speak and breathe and hear and participate with us. And you'll notice here, this is a mummy that was unearthed at the necropolis in the Central Nile Delta not too long ago. And I will share with you, can you make that a little bit larger? Sister Magina? Oops. Well, while she's doing that, the tongue, our ancestors, some of our ancestors were actually buried with gold tongues. If you can see, there we go. If you can see in there, that is actually a 24 karat gold tongue that was buried with this ancestor. And it says the Akh, which is another spiritual aspect or entity within the body, is transformed, transfigured into spirit that survives death and mingles with the gods. One source explained that the Akh was only allowed to individuals whose souls were worthy because they were good people in their past lives. Condemned criminals did not have proper burials, and their real names were buried with them, excuse me. So it was believed criminals could not survive in the afterlife, and the criminal could not become or have an Akh. An Akh is the blessed or transfigured soul of a person who died and whose soul has been judged by Osiris and found Ma'at Keru, justified. An Akh was an effective spirit. One could still influence events in this world. So this is one of the aspects of that I talk about in the book in terms of a lot of us come from a Christian background. Some of us come from a Christian background. And so we're very familiar with, in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. Again, these are clues from our ancestors. Our ancestors were telling us what the nature and the purpose of our mouths and our tongues are. And they are to be used in connection with transfiguring spirit and manifesting into the world around us to influence events. Our mouths are portals of creation. They are best focused on the Ma'atian principles of truth, justice, harmony, balance, order, reciprocity. This is why we were given mouths. And when in the book, I look at the origin of the connection between the heart and the tongue. In Kemetic spirituality, the heart is represented by Heru, and this is where we get that word, heart. And Heru represents the desires, the heart desires. And a lot of times when we see Heru in hieroglyphics from ancient Egypt, we see that Heru is depicted with one leg. And the idea behind that is to show the solidarity of all humans and the single desire that we have, and that's love. Every last one of us, no matter where we come from, no matter what we're going through, we all desire a fulfilling love. And that love we experience is our Heru nature, or in our hearts, that desire. And also the tongue is represented by Jehudi. And you may be familiar, the Greeks renamed Jehudi Thoth. And a lot of times in hieroglyphics or metanature, Jehudi is depicted with a lunar disc on the head, because at that point in our ancestry, the moon was used as a tool of measurement. And the tongue then becomes a tool of measuring our heart's desire. And when we put those together, we have the ability to transfigure and to control our environments, and to bring forth and to manifest into our lives and to the lives of others Sister Regina, can you go ahead and switch to the next slide? Also, something that's interesting is that the space between our tongue and our soft palate, it's called a fauces. And this is where we get the word faucet from. And we recognize that faucets are capable of administering a flow. So all of these things are leading us to understand that our utterances can create and promote life. They can also destroy and diminish life. So what comes out of our mouths is everything. And it's not just what comes out of our mouths, it's what goes into our ears, what we hear. That is just as critical. In the Wepet era ritual, only the highest of priests were allowed to touch the mouths and the ears and the eyes of the deceased. And the reason is that what we hear is what we manifest into our reality. We have canals in our ears, and we as women also have birth canals. And we recognize that a canal is something that, again, allows a flow and a passing through. What we hear gives birth to the belief system, to the imagination that holds our belief systems. And that turns into our identity, and that turns into our personality, and that turns into our attitude, our behavior, and our conversation. So I use that ritual as a metaphor about the level of personal responsibility that each of us has for what is coming out of our mouths and what is going into our heart soul. And yeah, I'd love to hear from the audience. That particular chapter is called Realizing the Spell. And I talk about grammar and spelling and the nature of our words. And I begin the chapter by talking about some of the things that I'm familiar with in our community. Statements like, I brought you into this world, I'll take you out. Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry for. I'll knock you in next week. All those things that have become very normalized in the imagination of Black parenting. A lot of those things they're not okay. We're speaking over our own children, we're speaking over our own family, and we're manifesting an identity and a personality. So that was the reason it was important to include that portion in the book and make sure that that we really connected with it. And something that I did as an instructor that was really, really effective with young people. You know, we hear a lot about bullying and mistreating children in school environments. With my classes, I would do an experiment where we would take an apple and we would cut it into 3 pieces. Some of you might be familiar with Dr. Emoto's water experiments about speech. But I would take an apple and cut it into 3 pieces and place them in Ziploc bags around the room. And one of the apple slice, I would label it love. The other apple slice, I would label it hate. And the other one, I would label indifference. And twice a day, when we started classes, the children would file past, speak to the apple that it loves, tell it, I love you. You look beautiful today. I'm so grateful that you're with me. Thank you for providing food. You're funny, you're smart, you're worthy, we like you. Just whatever they could think of that was loving to say to the apple slice. And then they would move to the hate apple slice and say, you know, you're stupid, you don't listen, what's wrong with you? Make threats, you know, if you're not a good apple, then I'm going to take you out, you know, and just get all that stuff out on the bad apple and then ignore the other apple. And after 10 days, there was a significant difference between the apple slices and how they had preserved themselves and how they had maintained themselves. And I would explain that one of the reasons is that we are 70% water. And of course, just like apples are probably even a higher percentage of water, but water is an intelligent force. And our words are intelligent forces. So we can raise the vibration of the water in ourselves, in others, in our environments, people, places, and things through our words. And we can also diminish that vibration, that we have the power to do that with our mouths. So that aspect of the book was really important to me because I've heard a lot of things that that I really hope we don't normalize in our speech to one another. And I think we can do a lot better.
Another powerful, powerful couple of chapters that you've spoken about in your book. Wow, wow, wow. And absolutely agree with you about, the power of the tongue, how we can create life from the word. When you think about it, wars are started based on words.
Yes.
And then wars are ended based on words of
Yes.
peace, And we had ZG in the chat saying, yes, speaking nicely to plants too,
Yes.
actually really works as well. So agreement there about the power of words. Wow, wow, wow. And so much more said there about the KHEMETIC elements as well. Got another question for you, because in the book, you mentioned clean pain. Not a kind of familiar terminology. And so I wonder if you could explain that for us and tell us what you mean by clean pain.
Yes, I borrowed that. That one's not mine. I borrowed that from our brother Resma Minicum and his amazing book, My Grandmother's Hands. He talks about clean pain in the book, and he talks about the distinction between dirty pain and clean pain. And both of them are, again, spoken for in Kemetic spirituality. There's the principle of correspondence, as above, so below. So both of those types of pain have the ability to recreate themselves exponentially. Clean pain is, it's honest pain. It's pain that acknowledges itself honestly, and pain that is framed around an acceptance that I am not human. I mean, I am not perfect. I'm a human being. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to say things that are hurtful. I'm going to fall short. I'm not going to meet all expectations. I'm not going to be the answer to anyone's fantasy or anything like that. I am going to be limited to life on life's terms like everyone else, and I will experience pain. Clean pain is something that allows us to have compassion for ourselves, to forgive ourselves, to accept ourselves as we are. It produces tolerance, it produces grace, and it turns out to be something we can recreate in someone else's life if they're in pain. Now, opposed to that, dirty pain. Dirty pain is a delusive force. Dirty pain says, I'm not hurt. That didn't hurt me. You can't hurt me. I'm infallible. I don't make any mistakes. I own and decide who is hurt, when they're hurt, how they're hurt. And basically I am in control and I am in charge of all I survey. It's a very delusionary entity, if you want to call it that. It's a very delusional perspective on our vulnerability as human beings. And it also can be reproduced exponentially. Dirty pain would be something that I would put in the area of generational pain, something that we're going to keep secret, we're not going to talk about, we're going to manipulate around it, we're going to shift the story, we're going to use victimization, deceit, we're going to tell the story our way when we want to tell it, and how we want to tell it. Those types of behaviors around pain and trauma, they make sure that the pain is recreated, not only for the person who's hearing it, the person that then carries that narrative along. So the book is about stripping away all of those, the need for all of those structures, and to be able to sit in acceptance with the fact that we are human, we are going to be hurt, we are going to hurt others, may not be intentional, may not be malicious. We don't have all the answers, but as long as we're acting in integrity, as long as we're willing to do the next right thing for the right reason, then it's okay to experience clean pain. It's something that we ought to expect, that there will be pain, but it's how we respond to it that matters.
Well, absolutely. Thank you for that explanation. I must admit, I've never come across, those terminologies before. And when you consider, the breadth and depth of that kind of analysis of clean pain versus dirty pain, we all really ought to be very familiar with both those concepts. I think it would help, you know, so many of us who maybe feel, because of life's pressures and the boxes that we are put into, that we have to behave in a certain way and mask our pain and be that perfect person. That your book, you know, will help us through that and make us come to the realization that, hey, I'm human, you know?
There will be pain.
I have the rights to experience pain, to make mistakes, you know. Beautiful. This is a book, as you're hearing, family, that, you know, can help so many of our people who are going through trauma. And as you were saying, there's generational trauma as well that many of us suffer from. And so, you know, there are the tools within the book, there are these concepts within the book that will just ease us through it. Where's Keirion's review? I've got to pull out some of his terminologies there. Fantastic. Thank you for that. And Bakhet, in the book, you call people, you talk about shadow work.
Yes, that's a really popular term right now. A lot of people are talking about shadow work, and that's okay. The book is definitely a journey into shadow work, the way that it's being defined today. And I talked about the house of our personality in the rooms with the shadows in it. So yes, this is actually this is an active spring cleaning of our personality structures, going into the corners of these rooms that we haven't been into in years possibly, and cleaning those corners out, getting the cobwebs and everything else out of the shadows of these rooms. But yes, shadow work, the idea of shadow work is that it is designed to increase the pain, to make it so uncomfortable, because I am a believer, and this is true of my own journey, the only time that I have ever chosen to change anything about myself is when the pain of staying the same has outweighed my fear of what it's going to be like to try to change. That's the only time that I personally have, you know, found the constitution to really make major changes in my belief system, my attitude, my behavior, my conversation. It is just too painful not to. So this book is definitely designed to look at our spiritual journey towards self-knowledge the same way we look at physical healing. A lot of times when we're ill, we might experience more illness before we're healed. So this is definitely shadow work. It is about facing the parts of ourselves that we hide from ourselves. One of the things that I've said over and over again is that we're only as sick as the secrets we keep from ourselves. Those things that we don't want to be honest with ourselves about. That is the extent to which we're operating in a dysfunctional and unhealthy way. And a lot of those ways that we behave in the shadow, that come from our shadow nature or our trauma. One of the things I acknowledge in the book is that epigenetically, when we look at epigenetics, we as foundational Black Americans and descendants, we have 14 generations of cellular material in us. And we come from a background as Black women where the tools of resistance that were available to us, the only tools we had of resistance were deception, they were dishonesty, they were manipulation, they were insolence. These are the very tools that we could use to resist imprisonment, resist and survive imprisonment. So we became experts at using those tools. We became experts at wielding insolence and deception to keep ourselves and our families alive. So here we are 14 generations later, and our level of comfort with self-dishonesty, it's taken on a life of its own. And the shadow work is to really be willing to look at that, to look at what we believe about deception and dishonesty and manipulation and all these tactics that in many ways are still effective today as Black women in order to survive and thrive in settler society. So it is shadow work, and it is heavy work that I encourage people to take their time with and be kind to themselves, because I go in deep and I ask the questions.
Wow, you certainly do go in deep, and you know, you're sending us to some of those far corners of the house that haven't been cleaned for a while, like you say, to face some of those, you know, bogeymen that we may have buried under the floorboards. We've got to dig them up. So, you know, it's understandable then why the next question I'm going to ask you is just so important in the book, because most books, you know, authors want you to read the book from start to finish. They don't ask you to take a break. But you're actually asking us to take a break.
Yes.
And I think to some extent you've already explained, you know, I mean, because of the amount of work that we're going to be doing on ourselves as we go through the books, and the tools that you've given us that we need to apply, and the techniques and the KHEMETIC understanding we need to have to get that inner perspective, you know, a lot to absorb. So, you know, but I want you to tell us, you know, why taking a break is so important.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's critical, because this is for me personally. This is a journey. This is a process. This is something that to reach the level of consciousness that I enjoy today, it has been a journey, and it has been a journey sometimes with 4 steps forward and 2 steps back. Because again, I have to be in acceptance. I'm a human being, and for every gift I have, there is an equal and opposite limitation. So if I'm honest with myself, and again, that the goal is to increase the discomfort, increase the pain, so that we have to look at things that we don't want to see necessarily, that might be uncomfortable. And sometimes we have to stop and digest that. And we have to practice self-care. We have to be kind to ourselves. And that's part of self-knowledge, is the practice and the application along the way of developing this strength called self-knowledge, called self-acceptance, called self-love, that I can be honest with myself. Okay, I've had enough. I need to digest that. I need to take that in. I need to practice it and see how it fits for me, what relationships it's effective in, when I want to use it, how I want to use it, what kind of voice do I want to use. So it's about being kind to ourselves in any kind of shadow work. At any time when we're growing and we're expanding, we've got to be kind to ourselves and loving. The extent to which we can find that kindness for ourselves and give ourselves a break is matched exactly by the extent to which we can give other people breaks and give them kindness. So one of the things that I talk about in the book is definitely being kind to yourself, taking a break. I even have a little picture of a coffee cup in there to remind you, okay, we went through a chapter. Give yourself a week to practice and think about and view and perceive your situations through this new information and these new beliefs. Have a cup of tea and find out what fits for you and what kind of narrative you want to write about this particular belief. You know, is this something you agree with? Is this new information? Is this something you disagree with? And why? And again, how? How are you going to use this information to raise yourself to your highest frequency and highest consciousness? And something else that's important that I mentioned in the book is about weaponizing this information. There is the possibility that when we take a healing journey, we can be misled to believe that our healing equals healing for others. And when we're talking specifically about the Black mother and the Black daughter, if one takes a healing journey and the other does not, we can't weaponize that journey. We have to be able to allow everyone their process and acknowledge that we didn't begin wherever we are today. Whatever level of consciousness we're experiencing, that's not where we started. So we have to have the patience and the tolerance to allow others their journey. And something else I talk about is managing expectations. Anytime we set up an expectation and we say, okay, well, you know, I'm doing this work and I'm healing myself and I'm getting a better understanding and self-knowledge and self-love, so you should be treating me differently and you should recognize that and you should know that I'm healing. We can't do that. Every time we set up an expectation, we're setting up a premeditated resentment. I'm already deciding how I'm going to resent you based on your response, because I have an expectation of how you should respond to my healing journey. These are not helpful things. These are things that delay us. That's not why we're on the journey to self-knowledge. Self-love looks like doing the next right thing for the right reason. And that's why we have to take those breaks, and we have to digest the information, and we have to really impersonalize it and find out how it fits for us in our individual situation, and be honest with ourselves about that. So yes, I encourage a 30-day process to go through the book, but I've got those little teacups in there to say, okay, you know, that's some pretty heavy stuff that we just talked about. So take your time and decide how that resonates for you before you rush out and tell other people what their problems are.
Yes, indeed. Thank you again so much, Bakhet. I mean, a phenomenal amount of work has gone into this book. And may I ask, how long did it take you, you know, from its conception to completion? Because, you know, there's a lot in there, the tools, the concepts, the depth of the, you know, the analysis. I mean, it's incredible.
Yes. I'm gonna be honest and say that book took 50 years to write.
Wow. Yeah.
It really did. On the physical realm, it took maybe a year and a half, but on the spiritual realm, that book took 50 years to be able to reflect the journey so far. And I honestly believe that, you know, if I took another opportunity to expand in this area, just the time since the book was released to now, the body of work and the context has grown even more. There are areas that they're, you know, I could have talked about that more, and this revelation and this realization. But yeah, a lifetime journey of coming into acceptance about what I control, and what my ascension looks like, what my consciousness and my side of the street and my path is, and what I can do for myself and how I can love myself. A lifelong journey.
Thank you for sharing that journey, because there's so much that, you know, so many of us, so much healing, that we can get from that journey. Okay, again, now's an opportunity for the audience to ask you some questions. So if you've got any questions or comments, please put them in the chat. We want to take your questions. We want to know maybe a bit about your experience, and you know, with the Black mother wound or with shadow work, and how important is communication in the Black mother stroke daughter relationship. So let's get a sense of feeling now from our audience, you know, what questions they may have or comments they may want to share. And, you know, in honor of self-care, for the divine feminine principle, okay, we're going to be engaging all parts of the brain and the body with this interlude that's coming up afterwards as well. So, but for now, you know, I think I saw one or two questions in the chat. So let's go over to the chat and see what we've got. Okay, we've got a hand, but let me scroll back and see if I can pull out some questions. Okay, lots of links in the chat as well. Please do copy the link so that you can, you know, visit the website afterwards. I didn't mention it, but I do know that if you go to the website, there's actually a free chapter of the book as well that you can download and read. So, Bakhet, do you want to tell us what chapter of the book that is?
That is actually the chapter called the Usually Inventory, and I believe it's close to 80 questions, both positive and negative, that deal with centering the emotions. So it asks questions like, I usually use food to satiate my negative feelings when. And I ask you to, this is an active book. It's not something you sit back and read. You are building this narrative. This is your book. I've given the skeleton of it, and I leave it to you to sing the flesh of your own healing journey. But some of the positive, usually questions might be, I usually have faith in my creator's care for me when. I usually have faith in my own abilities when. So it's about 80 questions on both sides of the positive and the negative spectrum. Those items are spiritual assets that promote your consciousness, and those spiritual defects that diminish your consciousness. So yeah, stop by the website. It's Zamani2Sasa.org, and you can download that chapter and give it a go. And after you do, have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee, and take a rest, and then go and get the book and go through the rest of the inventory.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for your generosity there. So Rosemary is asking, shadow work, learned behaviors, surely?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. A lot of, as I said, and not only learned behaviors from our environment and the women that went before us, some of it is epigenetic, like we talked about. Some of it is 14 generations of resistance as POWs in white settler society, and figuring out how to survive and how to thrive, figuring out when to lie about pregnancy, figuring out when to lie about illness. These are things that saved our lives, our families' lives, our children's lives, and became a way of life for those that went before us, and not an issue of morality. Telling lies, being insolent, talking back. One of the things that Bell Hooks has an amazing book on talking back. That instinct within us that the white settler despises, called insolence. Talking back and saying, you know, under our breath, don't talk back to me under your breath. You know, I heard that type of stuff. There's an epigenetic trail of cultural resistance and biological resistance that's been programmed into us to use some of these tools to ensure our survival, for self-preservation. So it's a mixture of a biological imperative about how we were formed, as well as our environment and what we see in the everyday, and the imagination that we get of Black women and Black motherhood. So it's a nice big ball that has to be untangled. And I think there's even a reference in the book about wise knots and people that untangle wise knots wisely. So yes, thank you, Rosemary. Yes.
Antoinette is asking a question as well. So, but what do we do if they refuse to grow, learn, and change?
What we do, my dear sister, is we accept. We get into acceptance. We get into acceptance about what we actually control in this life, in this experience. And that in and of itself is a worthy journey, a worthy healing journey, to come to the awareness that we are not capable of choosing anybody's journey or the pace of it. I talked about, you know, this is not the level of consciousness I started at, you know, and honestly, there are places in my life I can look back and I've experienced regret or guilt or shame, or my behavior wasn't what I would want it to be. And if you took a snapshot of me at that place 10, 15 years ago, and you judged me based on that, you wouldn't like me very much. We have to step into the awareness that whatever interaction we are having right now with the women in our lives, or the people in our lives in general, this is a snapshot of where they are on their journey right now in their process, and it doesn't belong to us. We have to manage our own journey and our own process. And the interesting thing about that is that the more that we do, the more we shift our focus onto our own journey and our own process, we actually can create the path for others. We can actually, we can give people something to emulate. When people see us behaving at our highest frequency, you know, the correspondence again, like attracts like. When we are operating at a place where we're traveling a centered path, we're centering our emotions, you know, you're bringing negative here and I'm balancing that with positive. You're telling me that I'm not worthy and I'm not good enough. And I'm telling you that, you know, my creator has decided that I am worthy and I am good enough. And I can choose to show you that in response to what's going on. Well, I'm giving you something now to imagine differently. I'm creating an imagination. You've seen it now. So now you actually have a choice about how to behave. And this is how we all move forward. We're all moving forward based on what we know to be possible and what has been lived before us. This is the principle of the Bible, of Jesus living before his followers. So we have to get into acceptance that what we control is our side of the street. It is our job to keep our side of the street clean. And we hope and we hold love and care and hope for others that they see how we clean our side of the street and they say, hey, that looks kind of nice. I might want my side of the street clean too. But we're not we can't be attached to that. If they don't, if they do, within the short period of time that we're looking at their journey, that's not enough information to judge them. We have to just be discerning about who we let into our clean side of the street. That's where our power lies, discernment. And thank you for
Great
that.
advice there. Yes, thank you so much for that question. We've got a comment here by Rosemary who says, Bakhet, I will absolutely purchase your book. Interestingly enough, you are speaking to feelings which for so many years I've not been able to articulate. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Rosemary. Yes, this is a conversation that is difficult to have. You know, I am a Black daughter. I have never in my life held my Black mother accountable for her behavior, and I don't believe I ever will. I wasn't raised to do that. There was no space created for that. I hope that we can do something different, that we can start giving our next generation the language to hold us accountable as adults with respect. And this is one of the things that I worked on in teaching in displacement spaces with women who are moving into colonial spaces, and the idea of women having voices and all the rest. These are women who had never even encountered the opportunity to hold anybody accountable for their behavior. So we had to start at the basics of understanding that language that says, your behavior is inappropriate. It makes me feel unsafe. I would prefer if, we had to really choose some very choice specific language to empower women to speak and to have a voice. So I hope that this is the precursor to us giving our children a respectful voice to hold us accountable and become part of our growth and our expansion too, instead of the dominating view that we inherited from the white settler. You're my child, I own you, you're my object. I decide how powerful you are, when you're powerful and when you're not. We're not doing them any service by giving them that and telling them to go out into the world. So thank you, Rosemary, for that. That lets me know that this work is good work. It's worthy work.
Absolutely. And Honorable Kemi says, yes, what an excellent exploration there. Let's scroll down and see what other comments we've got. So Antoinette says, what do you do if your family refuses to grow, change, learn, heal? I respect that everyone has their own journey, but they refuse. I've called them out, but they think I'm being rude.
Yes, I get it. I really, really get it. There's another perspective. There is a spiritual perspective that says that, of course, a prophet is never appreciated in their own town. But there is a spiritual perspective that says that in many ways, that experience of being rejected by our families and being refused and having our voices refused, in many ways, it can be a great great source of strength. It can be something that refines us. In many ways, in my own experience, the God of my understanding, my Creator's love on my life has been a refining love. And when I talk about refining, I'm talking about a sword that is forged in flames and then dipped in cold water and then forged in flames and then dipped in cold water. Some of us have experiences that are refining, that bring into focus our particular gifts. And that gift may be strength, it may be courage, it may be willingness. But if we take the focus off of our external environment and what others are choosing to do, and we start to apply discernment about how much power and how much space am I willing to give you in my journey. Again, it's the same analogy, my side of the street is clean. I clean it regularly. I keep all of the litter off of it. I make sure there are no cracks in the pavement. That is my job. Now, if you come over here and you want to dump litter and trash, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Now, I get that your street is however it looks. That's not my business. But I'm cleaning my street. I'm keeping my street clean for the right reason, because this is how I show that I value what I have and what's been provided to me. This is how I exhibit self-love. Perhaps showing that gives someone else an idea of what it looks like. We have to realize a lot of generations that came before us don't have an idea of what that looks like. They weren't allowed to. So we have to try and have some compassion.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for your response to Antoinette's question.
Thank you, Antoinette.
And Bakhet, Magina is asking if you could please say, what are your thoughts on the impact of clean versus dirty pain on pregnancy?
Ooh, oh, that's a good one. Oh, and our sister Magina is actually, I don't want to pull her covers, but she is an Afrocentric researcher and immunologist who's doing a lot of work in that area. And I'm looking forward to that work, because if there is a second iteration of this book, it will go even further back to birth and pregnancy and the Black mother wound and the impact of that. I believe, and with knowledge from her and my experience learning from her, I believe that trauma has a significant impact on Black women and motherhood and the children that they produce, and pre-birth, through delivery, through aftercare. I believe there's a significant impact. When we can look at studies that talk about weathering Black women and the impact of race battle fatigue on Black women. And anytime that a pregnant woman experiences increased stress, her endocrine system responds, and this is the lifeline for the developing child within her, and how that child's brain responds and how their endocrine system responds. So if a woman is experiencing any level of generational trauma, any level of unresolved issues around self-acceptance or self-love or even self-knowledge, a lot of those things can be transferred to the fetus, to the baby. Then on top of that, when we look at white settler medical scholarship and the environment that many of our women are giving birth in, and the maternal reproductive rates of disease and death amongst Black women, we have got to be prepared. We have got to know ourselves. We have got to accept our own limitations and gifts when it comes to what we're willing to deal with, what we're not willing to deal with. We have to be empowered to really own the motherhood process, if that is our choice. And from a community perspective, we need to help the Black women in our community, the young girls, the Black women, the Black mothers. We need to get back to a way where that is a collective community process, that it's not something that you have to endure alone, and it's not something that becomes a burden or some sort of narrative of statistics. I hope, I really hope that we find a better way of securing safety and health and well-being for the next generation. But yeah, trauma, generational trauma, the Black mother wound, not having that support, having to take that journey in an environment that's hostile to you as a Black woman already, to become a Black mother without support once the child is here. All of these things are a perfect storm for failure, for hostility, for aggression, for a lot of the things we see on the internet called toxic Black motherhood, toxic Black womanhood. There's a perfect storm going on even before we're born.
Wow, deep stuff there again. Thank you so much again, Bakhet. You know, it's a huge topic in its own right.
Yes.
We
Yes.
can hear that. You know, Antoinette has made a good point as well. She's asking, what about, you know, separating yourself? What about if the situation you're in is hurting, and maybe you just feel you need to separate for a while to get away from the hurt, you know? I wonder if you could comment on that.
Absolutely. My sister Antoinette, I absolutely support that decision for anyone here who is in an unsafe environment that's not nurturing them and feeding them and raising them to their highest vibration, whether it's your mother, your father, your aunt, your uncle, your grandparent, or your children. I absolutely support that. Here's the distinction. There is a difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. These are two separate things. We still have to do the work to forgive, because if we don't, it's that old adage about taking poison and hoping somebody else dies. If we're going to hold on to the anger, the hate, the blame, the shame, we still have to do that work to heal ourselves and to find forgiveness. Now, reconciliation, that is an entirely different matter. I can forgive you. I can accept who you are. I can accept your choices. I can even respect them and choose not to have you be a part of my life, because I want to vibrate at a certain frequency, and I want to continue a healing journey and a growing journey. And I have the right to do that. So you absolutely have the right to do that. It's in your best interest to do that. It is not an obligation. None of us are obligated to be abused or disrespected or traumatized. That is so far from the realm of self-love that no, we have to be clear about that. The forgiveness journey is a real journey that all of us have to take, whether we've been wounded or not. Unless you had the perfect mother, and I don't know that there is such a thing, at some point we will have to take the journey to forgive our parents for not being the idols that we grew up believing they were. We can also choose to disconnect ourselves. We can choose the level of contact. We can choose the circumstances of contact. We can, they have a whole bunch of tools where perhaps something really practical, I'll tell you, is that I'm aware of a tool where a young woman has a 30-minute clock on how much time she'll engage family members, because she recognizes that anything beyond that is toxic, it's unhealthy for her, and it impacts the way that she feels physically or mentally or spiritual. So she'll have a 30-minute clock. If she can get to the family function and get out in 30 minutes, then she'll go. If not, if it's too far away, if there's too many obstacles, then she can't go. So these are some of the ways that we can constructively protect ourselves. We can build we can build our own ways to keep ourselves safe and to show love for ourselves and to prioritize our well-being. We have the right to do that, and sometimes that has to happen.
Good advice there. Thank you so much. We'll just have a final comment question here from Rosemary. This one says, Bakhet, my heart aches when I think about the love I have for my mother. Interestingly enough, I find it's very difficult. It's very difficult to discuss with my siblings aspects of their parenting, which I feel could have been improved. Family loyalty and secrets can surely hold us back on our journey of self-discovery.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, Sister Rosemary. I have two siblings. We grew up in the same house. We used the same bathroom, fought over the bathroom. You know, you're in there too long. Went to the same Thanksgiving dinners, same Christmases, all of it, same birthday. We have completely different experiences of the parenting that went on in our house. This is another aspect of the white settler image nation and parenting and motherhood. The idea that mothers love their children equally. They love all of their children the same. We are human beings. Let's get realistic. Yes, a mother can absolutely love all of her children, but she may like some of them more than others. She may connect with some of them more than others. She may have more things in common with one child versus another child. She may find one child easier to talk to. They may enjoy the same kind of entertainment. They may aspire to the same things. There is no universal parenting that goes on, even if we're all in the same household. That's so not realistic. And again, this is the journey of self-acceptance. This is the journey of self-love. This is the journey that allows me to sit with my sisters and brothers and allow them their experience, you know, and respect that that's the experience that they had. I do not need to tell them what their problem is. I do not need to tell them that they're wrong, that they don't see it the right way. I'm right, you're wrong. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't have to do any of that. I get to allow them their process, their journey, their experience, and I get to protect my own. I get to have my own, and I get to insist on having it, again, out of self-love, out of self-acceptance, out of knowing myself and my reality and how I respond to my world. So yeah, that is real. That is a very real thing. You can grow up in the same house and have a totally different experience of your parents, and it's okay.
Thank you again, Bakhet, for that very deeply insightful overview of your book, for sharing with us some of the tools that you have in the book as well that we can use as part of our healing journey. And I want to rise up those who have said, yes, I've just subscribed to your YouTube channel. So you've got at least one new subscriber. So everyone in the house, please do subscribe to Bakhet's YouTube channel. And I want to rise up Marie for posting in the chat as well, so you can get links via the chat to the book, The Black Mother Wound, Kemetic Centered Thought. The links are in the chat. The links are in the chat for Bakhet's website and her YouTube channel. So rise up Marie for the postings. Thank you all very much for your questions, and thank you Bakhet again, you know, for your response to all those questions as well. So we're gonna get a couple of videos now that's going to be played. So we're going to give you a minute or two just to stretch your legs and take a comfort break, but don't go too far away, because we're going to be starting again within the next 3 minutes or so. If you have any further questions, please do post in the chat and we'll pick them up as we go forward. And after the chat, we've got our very own Baba Winters, Dr. Winters in the house. So don't go too far for too long. Okay, thank you so much. So a couple of videos are going to be coming on shortly. Keep it locked. Okay, we just need the audio. We don't seem to have any audio.
Growing up as a kid.
Okay, still no audio on my end.
Yeah, here too. We're missing audio.
Yeah.
Okay, I think he's
so we're gonna wheel and come again, as we say in the sound system. Arena. So we're gonna wheel and come again with some sound. Okay, yeah. So enjoy the break for 2-3 minutes, and we're gonna come back after the break with our very own Dr. Winters.
All right.
As you can see, we've got Dr. Winters in the house. He's there waiting to come live on screen, but let's see how Machina's doing first with those videos. It might be that you need to optimize the audio on the way in. So just before you play the video, there might be a little dialog box asking you to optimize the audio. Make sure you click that, and then we'll all be able to hear the audio. Let's see, let's go over to the chat and see what we've got going on there in the meantime. Marie says, dear Black Girl, oh right, yeah, this is the video that's going to be coming up, Dear Black Girl by Candice Nicholas Littman. Hopefully we will be able to hear that. And just to remind you that you can get the book, The Black Mother's Wound, a Kemetic Centered Thought Remedy, at you can go to Amazon to get that book, and the link is in the chat. Also, do remember to visit the website and subscribe, like and share Zamani2Sasa on YouTube. Where did you get that name from?
It's actually, Zamani is, it represents the collective past, the unconscious cultural collective past, the memory that we don't have access to, our ancestors who are no longer with us. And Sasa is the present, who we are today. Our ancestors didn't necessarily have a concept of the future. That's a very white settler concept, even to speak about the future. Our ancestors spoke about today and what went on in the past. And that's pretty much it. So Zamani2Sasa was the expression and the hope of recovering that collective memory, that collective cultural memory, and reintroducing it into the present of who we are today and how we move through the world today. So that is my prayer for everyone that's with us today, that we connect to that past, that collective past, and we start to integrate pieces of that knowledge into how we live today, and let the future take care of itself. That's not our problem.
The Sankofa birds just speak so aptly to that, and I know you've got an image of the Sankofa bird in the book as well, which is about going back, looking back, and fetching. So for you, it's about living in the present.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. You know, as a mother, I do think about the future, I must say, and I do believe in a legacy, and I do believe, in the importance of connecting with the past, living the present, and also,
being mindful. Absolutely.
Generations to come.
Yes, yes.
And it's interesting you're talking about the 14, the 14 generations that we've got at a cellular level as well. That's really interesting stuff. So, if you really get into a deep kind of meditative state, we ought to be able to hear 14 ancestors back. My goodness.
That is exactly it. If we can create the space, and remove the distractions and create the space to actually hear that voice, then absolutely. Oh, Sister Regina's back. Okay.
Yeah, fantastic. Here we go.
Oh, we're still missing the sound.
The audio is not with us as well, and it's freezing, unfortunately.
Okay, I think she's saying that she's saying we should go ahead and go forward. But if you do get a chance, I highly recommend that you step on over to YouTube and type in Dear Black Girl, and check out this performance. It's something that's really empowering and uplifting. I'm a lover of spoken word and especially when it empowers us and raises our vibration. So that's what I wanted to do for you today. But on your own time, go ahead and take a look at that and get a little bit of empowerment.
Okay, all righty. Maybe we could, I wonder if I could get it here. I'm just going to try and get it. I know we're in the break situation, so some of our audience may want to step away to get themselves a bit of a refreshment or something.
Yeah,
so,
and just move around a bit.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find that.
I had to go move around a bit.
Well done. Oh, well done.
That's our beautiful sister Maria, our chat pro. She's talking to you in the chat and bringing your questions forward and your comments forward and letting you know where to get all these great books. Our sister Shanice's amazing book off A Black King of Anglo-Saxon England, King Offa, as well as my book. These are beautiful stocking stuffers. We're coming up on the holidays. These are great books. So we've got books that interest the masculine spirit, something about history. Our brothers and our fathers, they love history. And then we've got something for the ladies on the other end, the Black mother wound. And the information is not weaponized. It's not there to say, you know, anybody is not doing their job. But these are great stocking stuffers and a way for you to support Black authors, please, and support Black-owned business. So thank you, Sister Maria, for keeping all the chat going and the links so that people can get these books and get your shopping list out of the way. Go ahead and send books to everybody. Give everybody a book.
Absolutely.
I'm going to try one more time.
Okay.
Putting Sister Shanice's book in there again. For those of you who missed it, I've put in Sister Shanice's book in there and her show.
Thank you so much. So we're going to try the video again, and fingers crossed this time it works. I've got it lined up as well. If it doesn't, we'll try my end as well.
Yeah, we still don't have any sound. I don't think it's working out.
Let me. Okay. Alrighty. I'm just going to share screen. I'm going to try.
Okay.
My internet's, you know, not that fast either, but let's give it a go. Let's optimize the video on the way in so we can hear. Tell me, right, so let's click share. Can you see the screen?
Yes, just came up.
Okay, let's play. Can you hear anything?
Yes, we can. Wonderful. Can you make it a little bit larger?
So no one has to feel the pressure of going first. Me and my girls got you.
Perfect.
Oh, hang on. Maybe I need
It's frozen.
It's frozen. Okay, I don't think it likes it large screen.
Growing up as a kid, I hated my
There we
dark
go.
skin. And if I could be transparent, even now as a grown woman, I have to constantly reprogram my thinking.
Sorry. I'm not sure what happened there.
Years of being told I was not the
Oh. No, sorry.
I was
Let me
not the
try.
standard for beauty, but see, that was a lie. Which is why
No, sorry, I would have had to download it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't look like that was going to work, so I'm just going to stop share. My apologies there as well. But yeah, you can find it on YouTube. You can
I did actually download it, but it still didn't work.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't know what the problem is. So, but it, you know, we're doing good. We're doing good. I'm happy.
Yes, we are. Yes, and it's worth watching if anybody has a moment. You know, maybe some holiday entertainment when you've got the family together and you want to raise the vibration. Go ahead and look that video up on YouTube, and I guarantee it will raise the vibration of the room.
Wonderful. Okay, so a bit of homework for us all there. All righty, so hopefully everybody is back with us for part 2. of our book launch event. And for this part of the session, we have our very own Dr. Winters. Let me introduce him to you. Welcome, welcome, Dr. Winters to the house. Dr. Clyde Winters is an educator, anthropologist, and linguist. He has taught education and linguists at St. Xavier University in Chicago. He's the author of numerous articles on anthropology, archaeogenetics, and linguistics. His articles have appeared in the Journal of Black Studies, Proceedings of the National Academy of Science, Science, Bio Essays, Current Science, International Journal and Human Genetics, International Journal and Dravidian Linguistics, and Journal of Modern African Studies. Dr. Winters' books include African Empires in Asian America, We Are Not Just Africans, The Black Native Americans, Atlantis in Mexico, The Mandi Discovery of America, Ancient Scripts of South America, the Suriname, the Sumerians in South America, and archaeological decipherment of ancient writing systems, to name a few of Dr. Winters' books. And all of these can be ordered via Amazon, as well as being, right, so yeah, on my days, yes. So I can highly suggest and endorse Dr. Winters' upcoming third cohort of the Afrocentric Research Program, coming up and starting on the 9th of January 2023. So if you are ready to own your journey to self-knowledge and create the scholarship that guides our people, take this course. Get your B1 PhD. I did.
Hey, I have it too.
The link is in the chat, family. He's also the son of a Black mother. He has married and loved a Black mother, has a Black daughter, and is an advocate for the liberation of all Black women. Thank you for joining us to share with us today, Dr. Winters, and we, are going to now be privileged and honored to hear your impressions of this work and the important journey to heal the Black mother wound.
This book is so very important, and what makes it very important is that it's not just a book for Black women, even though it's called the Black mother's wound. We all suffer a wound. I love my mother very much, but I didn't understand my mother until I got very, very old. Because see, as growing up in an FBA family, your mother and your grandmother, they never say I love you. My mother and my grandmother never told me or told any of my brothers and sisters, I love you. You see? And so what you find is that much of our relationship in terms of being a child is that you have to try to find images or find things that make you feel that you're loved. My grandmother, she always made beautiful breakfasts and lunches for me. I used to go over her house, and when I was spending the night, I'd sleep in the bed with her and all that type of stuff. When we'd wake up, she cooked me a beautiful breakfast and stuff. That showed me she loved me. My mother, she would make rice puddings. But although in a sense, they never told you that they loved you, you had to find images that said they loved you. But as Bakhet brought up, you constantly hear a lot of negativity. It's very important in a sense to understand that what Bakhet has done in this book is that she shows us that we go through this period of habitual beliefs. And these habitual beliefs are taught to us by our mom. Oh, you ain't shit. Men are whores. A man a dog. And different things like that. I can kill you if I want to. All that type of stuff. I brought you, I can kill you. And these things, these are negative. And yet you constantly go through this these expressions of negativity and while you're still trying to, in a sense, feel that you're loved. And this is a very important thing because see, most Black women in a sense never feel loved. I found that out as I got older. And because of the fact that most Black women never feel loved, you know, they feel wanted, you see, but they don't feel loved. And often they don't even feel wanted. And one of the reasons for this is that it's the way you're raised. As a man, I was raised by my my father, my uncles. You know, they say you gotta go out and you gotta find P-U-S-S-Y. I don't want to say the word because my son says that as an intellectual, I shouldn't say that on YouTube. But so what they do is that they always ask you, you know, you get 9 years old, 12 years old. Do you have a girlfriend? You know, in other words, if you had a girlfriend, at least you're not gay. Or if you have a girlfriend, at least one day you might get sex. You know, you hear your father and your uncles, they always talk about that conquest. Like my father grew up in Mississippi. A lot of times he talked about jumping out of girls' windows and all that type of stuff when their parents would come. That all sounds really well, but it constructs in you, in a sense, an attitude in which you don't see a woman as a human being. You see her as a big vagina. And that because of the fact that you see women as a vagina, instead of seeing women as a human being, it can have a negative effect on you. But see, I grew up in a sense lucky. I couldn't talk. Since I couldn't talk, that meant in a sense when my mom would send me to the store, I had to get a note. I had to take this note. So I had to listen to TV to learn how to pronounce words. I had to read books and stuff. And so then that gave me an understanding of the words. At the same time, I had an older sister, and because I was the only boy around, and they could always hug and kiss me and all that type of mess. So that made me say, woo, well, hey, I must be somebody. But at the same time, you know, the teachers of my father, my uncles, and the fact that these girls always was hanging on to me, it could have given me a very bad attitude. I didn't want to be a gas man. A gas man back when I was growing up is somebody who would just use women and stuff like that. I lived in Chicago. On the south side where I grew up, you had the sophisticated girls, you know, and the girls, you know, nice hairstyle, stuff like that. And then on the west side, you had kind of the country girls, you know, want to have babies and stuff like that. Because see, you know, this whole idea of even having children is that a lot of times Black girls, they grew up with the whole idea that I'm going to have a baby. This is a very important thing. They grow up with the idea I'm going to have a baby, but they don't grow up with the idea I want to have a baby. See, these are two different things. And so then what I found in a sense is that because of the fact that I knew words, then I knew I could control the universe. Because see, I knew that women operate off words. So I knew that if I knew how to be a words craftsman, I could control any situation I wanted. Because see, I didn't see women as being, in a sense, nothing but an object. Okay, but by the time I got 16, I started saying that I want someone to love. It's very important. I didn't say I wanted a girlfriend. I didn't say I wanted God to bring a woman into my life. I said, I want to have someone to love, that I could love. All these girls was acting like they love me. I mean, you know, he's got pretty eyes. You know, he's muscular, all that type of stuff. He's 6'2", well, 6'1". When I was in college, they said I was 6'2" because that was for football. But anyway, and so then luckily, in a sense, I prayed to God, and he brought me my wife. And my wife, in a sense, she taught me what love was. I didn't say she taught me how to make love, you know, but she taught me what love was. And see, the most important thing I have to understand is that when you look at Sister Shanice's book, and when you go through those various lessons, you see, because see, not Sister Shanice, I'm sorry. When you look at Bakhet's book, what you find in a sense is that she brought him an important point in that book. And the number one point, one of the number one things that Bakhet brought up is that you're not allowed any innocence as a Black child. You're not allowed any innocence. You know, from day one, it seems as though, you know, as soon as you're born, you got to grow up. You know, when I was growing up, if I fell down and got hurt, I come to my mother crying, and, you know, she'd say, you got to be a man, boy. You got to be a man. Stop that crying. When my sisters would come to my mom, oh, baby, oh, let me kiss it. Where you hurting at? And so then you learn right away that there's a difference between the genders. But at the same time, in a sense, is that you learn that you're supposed to be under control. My mother and father, if they were alive today and I said, well, you taught me that I could be a crook, they would say, I didn't teach you that you could be a crook. Yes, you did. You taught me that anything the white man had, I should take it. And that I shouldn't even worry about the fact that I took it. I should just take it, you see. And so then, because you talked about stealing watermelons and all that type of stuff. So you grow up with this thing. And so again, as I said, is that so when I met my wife, you know, I didn't, because of the fact I didn't want to be a gash man, because of the fact that I could be honest with my wife, then therefore we did the worst thing a man and a woman can do. And the worst thing a man and a woman can do is to really communicate. But when you get with a woman or you get with a man and you make that man tell you those hurts that he's had from his mother being wounded. When you tell your girlfriend, tell me the things that made you hurt from what your mama did or what your mama told you. You find in a sense that you have that commonality. When you have that commonality, what you're able to do in a sense through communication is that you begin to grow and you begin in a sense to get rid of that excess weight. And see, that's what Bakhet has done in her book. She gives you these exercises. And in these exercises, you're supposed to look back and you're supposed to deal with those shadows, but you're especially supposed to deal with you. You have a conversation with yourself. I'm a cognitivist. As an educational psychologist, you know, my area of study was attribution. Since, you know, attributions mean why do you do this? Why do you do that? But I'm also a cognitivist. I've learned over the years in a sense that you have to talk. And when you talk to yourself, you learn more about what you should know. And so by me talking to my wife to be, then therefore in a sense, you know, we were able to get rid of a lot of excess, you know. We're able to get rid of a lot of excess, but the point is this, I still had to be a good Black man. So a good Black man, you gotta have sex. You gotta have sex. I didn't wanna have sex. I didn't wanna have sex with my wife when we were teenagers, but I did it because that's what I was supposed to do. That's what my uncle said I should do. That's what my father said I was do. And so luckily, you know, luckily she got pregnant, she became pregnant. We had a child, but I couldn't do anything because I'm a teenager. I couldn't marry her. And her mom wasn't gonna let me marry anyway because her mom had other plans. But when she got 18, we got married. And then, you know, for the next 50 years, she was my wife. And so I learned so much from her. And so my wife, she didn't carry into our family those wounds that my mother and her mother may have had. And see, that's the most important thing to try to understand is that, you know, when you buy the Black mother's womb, what you do in a sense is that what Bakhet forces you to do, she forces you in a sense to find yourself. You see, it's a manual on finding yourself. Most of us don't know ourselves because most of the time we don't really communicate with ourselves, let alone communicate with each other, you know. And that because I know in a sense is that as a woman, if you start really trying to talk to any man you're interested in, if you try to talk to that man and you try to get that man to really tell you what's on his mind, tell you his thoughts, hey, he's gone. Because most men, in a sense, they don't want to share that because if they share that, they have to be real, you know? And so then I would tell my daughter to do that. My daughter said, you old man, you don't know nothing. I said, hell, listen to me. You see, and so she went into a lot of bad relationships, but that was her fault. Because the fact is this, is that she didn't understand is that make people talk to you, make people have to express themselves. When you have to express yourself, then you determine and you decide who you are. And see, it's very important in the sense is that when you read the Black mother's womb, what you do is that it's a course in you finding yourself. It's a course in you deciding on who and what you are. And see, this is very important. Just like as Bakhet said, when you're 14 years old, you know, when I was growing up, what they tell a girl, keep your dress down. What the hell, keeping your dress down? What did that mean? Oh, if you keep your dress down, instead of just saying, hey, you know, you shouldn't have sex, they say, keep your dress down. But see, they couldn't do that because, see, remember, the basic problem with growing up as a foundational Black American or growing up as a foundational Black British is that you got to remember is that the church can never be honest with you. Because see, if the church talks about fornication, then they won't have anybody in the church. Because just about all the women in the church, most of them had a baby out of wedlock. And so then therefore, if you start talking about the 10 Commandments and things like that, automatically you're gonna have in a sense, a group of people that's not gonna wanna listen because they got babies out of wedlock. So automatically, that's like saying that you're not the chosen of God. But understand what this does though, is that it inculcates in foundational Black American men and women, this whole idea that having a child is nothing. But as Bakhet shows in her book, having and raising and teaching a child is very important, you know. And so then that's why I find in a sense this book so important. And I think that men, women, everybody, you should get this book, you should go through the exercises, and you should try to, in a sense, find yourself. See, we have to get rid of that excess baggage. I repeat, we have to get rid of that excess baggage that we're carrying from our mothers having all this negativity. You ain't shit, a man, a dog, you know, I'll kill you, I brought you in this world, I'll kill you, or this and that, all those cliches. We have to get that out of us. It's trash, it's garbage, you see? But the only way that we can look at these things is to examine who and what we are. And that's the beauty of Bakhet's book, is that if you go to those chapters, if you take the time to write down and answer those questions that she poses, then therefore, in a sense, that's going to help you to be better. I used to teach a psychology course. And in the psychology course, I used to try to teach my students how they can, use medication and other processes to try to, in a sense, find themselves and be able to grow as individuals. And see, that's what makes the Black mother womb so important, is because the fact is that it's talking about that baggage. It's talking about that mother. See, we talk about in a sense, racial abuse. We also had mother abuse. And that mother abuse came from our mothers carrying into the family in a sense, what their mother taught them and what their mother's mother taught them. And so then therefore they perpetuated this abuse. They perpetuated a mental abuse that was very bad. When I used to play football when I was in high school. And so I was talking to my wife before we got married. And I said, yeah, whenever I tackle somebody, I would think I was hitting my mother. She said, you're sick. I said, what are you talking about? Damn, you see how good I am? She said, you're sick because you were tackling people and making them turn into your mom. That wasn't right, you see? She used to say, you got to try to find a way to forgive your mom. You got to try to, in a sense, try to move forward, because see, she that was the type of person she was, And just like whenever my little brother, they're in their 50s and stuff, 60s, they say, damn, Diane, when my wife died, they said, it was always Clyde and Diane. He said, I don't even know you without her. And I said, well, that's the whole point, is that, but you have to understand that life goes on. But see, I thought I had forgiven my mother, but I didn't forgive my mother. And I found it out because one day I was talking to this psychic. And so the psychic, this woman said, well, I'm talking to the people on the other side, and they're really happy. Your father this and your mother your mother want to say something to you. I said, what the hell she doing there? And I said, oh. And so she didn't say anything. And then later my wife said, you shouldn't have said that. But I said, damn, I said, as mean as she was to me, I thought she should still be she should be in hell or something instead of heaven. But I didn't understand. I didn't understand is that my mom, she may have wanted to say, I'm sorry, but I didn't give her a chance because the fact is this, I knew I had to work more. I had to work more on myself because see, as you learn when you're reading Bakhet's book talks about, in a sense, you know, trying to find, in a sense, forgiveness and reconciliation. You see, I made a hijrah in the concept of the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, to get away from he had to move away from Medina to get away from these people who were taking him away, and who were really making him feel down and were unbelievers. And see, just like Bakhet explains in her book, you have to get away from people who are negative to you. You have to get away from people who make you feel as though you should be mad at them. Because see, you know, like Bakhet teaches you, and that's why you really need this book. She teaches you that as long as you're not forgiving people, they're holding you in bondage. They're holding you in bondage because you keep on always thinking about what they did to you instead of moving forward and growing forward. And so I really needed that. I really needed that experience because I felt sad later when my wife made me feel sad, you know. But I felt sad later because of the fact, in the sense that I had to really work on myself, you know. And then I had a principal. I had a really beautiful principal, and you know, she was called Mrs. Ellis, and I loved the hell out of her. And my wife said, "Well, if I die, you could marry her." Well, she died first, and so then after Mrs. Ellis died, we had a series of principals come to my school. I had been in the same school for 22 years. So anyway, we had this Miss Anderson came, and this woman, she just hated me so much. I used to put salt down at the door to her office to maybe, in a sense, maybe try to hold that evil spirit in there. And then I put salt outside my classroom, you know, because the thing is I wanted to keep that devil out of there. But see, what I started thinking is that, I said, maybe in one of my incarnations, right now I'm Clyde Winters, I'm a teacher at Bennett School. But I said, maybe somewhere along the line, I heard her, maybe in one of my other incarnations, you know, maybe I was a mean husband or a mean child or whatever. And so then I had to pray to God and say, please, God, help me to forgive myself so I can forgive other people. Because see, the thing is, this is that because of the fact that I believe, this is just my belief, so, you know, you can take it or leave it. I believe we signed a contract with God, and that we signed this contract to come and play a role in this book, because if you really read the Bible, and Revelation says that the book closes. So that taught me that we're playing a role that God assigns us so that we can fulfill his story of mankind and justice and stuff. So then therefore, that's why, if you notice, is why they said that God will always forgive you. So then therefore, in a sense, since I signed a contract to get here, God will always forgive me. There is a judgment day. But I said, damn, after I met Miss Anderson, I said, damn. Since God can't judge me, I'm going to have to judge myself. I said, damn, whoa, I didn't want that, because see, if I judge myself, I can't lie to me because I know every damn thing I did. So I had to start praying to God and say, please, God, help me to forgive myself so I can go forward and then help those people who are hurt maybe in the past to feel better. Because I tell my daughter all the time, I said, I think in one of my incarnations, I was your son because you always want to boss me around. I'm not going to do a damn thing you tell me, but this is it. But that's just the life. And so what I'm saying is that Bakhet has written a book. She's written a book that can help everybody Everybody in the Western Hemisphere, you see, everybody that grew up from this slave experience that the colonizers did to us can use this book to grow. You see, my mother, I had a hard time. And I believed in religion back then. I don't believe in religion now. I believe in faith and Amma, but I don't believe in any religion. I'm not going to name a religion. I'm not going to say I'm in any religion. I only believe in Amma. I believe in Jesus Christ because Jesus Christ taught us that I could pray directly to God. That's very important. That means I don't have to go to an imam. I don't have to go to a priest. I don't have to go to a reverend. I can pray directly to God. Very important. But see, and so then when I got into the situation, my mother, instead of her helping me, she said, let's see what your God do for you. I said, damn, I said, it's only one God. Well, you say you believe in another religion, so let's see what your God will do for you, you know. And so then I didn't understand back then. I did understand the fact that, okay, we were Protestants. I mean, we were Baptists. But then on my father's side, they were all light skinned, you know, gray eyes and stuff, green eyes, you know, and they were all super light. And so then they were all Catholics. And so then, you know, and then I said, damn, I said that, why is this? But see, that's that whole point. That's the wound of your mother. That's the wound of your mother. I realized later, I said that, daggone, I said, when my mother was probably pregnant with me, because the other kids, they were okay. But I started feeling that my mother, when she was pregnant with me, maybe my father was a bigger whore than he was when I was around him. So maybe she focused, maybe she began to believe that because she was pregnant and that I was the result of that pregnancy, maybe that's why she felt my father, you know, was such a cheater. No, he was a cheater. A cheater's a cheater. People who cheat, they just cheat because that's part of their thing. I mean, my grandfather, damn, he got killed somewhere cheating. My grandmother, she had to leave Mississippi and come to Chicago because one of my grandfather's girlfriends put something up under the step of her house. And so she fixed her. And so she fixed her by putting something under the step of the house. And so then my grandmother, she always had to have a bag, you know, for her excrement. And so then she had to lead us out. But see, my grandfather and my father, they were just, I'm a lover. I can't help it. But again, like I said, so then, you know, you grow up with these things, you grow up with these wounds, but then the mother has a wound too. And see, the wound they have is, see, most Black women, maybe some of you are different, but the vast majority of Black women always feel, number one, their man is a dog. Number two, their man is going to leave them, you see. But see, these are things that is very, very hard to overcome because see, I found out when I got married, I found out I was my wife's God. I was her first God because she could trust and believe in whatever I said because I didn't lie back then. I lie now though, but I didn't lie back then. I didn't tell lies. So one day she was sick. And this goes right to what Bakhet wrote about. One day she said she was sick. So, you know, I played football. And so, you know, I'd have dropped on, I'd be hurting like hell. And the coach would always say, just suck it in. You can do it, Winters. Get back out there. Do it. You know, if I'm bleeding, just tape it up. Put some tape over it. And you get back out there. So then my wife, she said, I don't feel good, blah, 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 blah. I said, damn, just suck it in. You'll be okay. But then I made the biggest mistake I could ever make in my life. I said, my mama, she didn't never complain. That was it. After that, she said, you know what? I'm not your mama. I'm not your mama. She said, you know what, Clyde? This was in 1971. She said, Clyde, I'm never going to iron any piece of your clothes. And do you know what? She never ironed any piece of my clothes. And we were, and she didn't die until till 2020, you see? But the point is, this is what I'm saying is that, like Bakhet said, I wanted to compare my wife to my mother. And my mother, now after I said this, and I said, oh yeah, my mother was probably sick sometimes. My mother was probably hurt sometimes. But my mother had to have a strong face. She had to give us that face to keep going on. And I looked at a picture of her mother. And you know, her mother had, 6, 7 kids. Her husband had died and they had very hard time. And my grandmother used to always say, boy, your mama came from a very sad family. And when I look at those pictures, of my wife's mother, she never smiled. Do you know what? Let me tell you something. I never even saw my grandmother smile. See? My mother, she smiled sometimes, but I never saw my grandmother smile. And so see, so they were teaching us for a hard life, but that wounded us, that wounded me. It didn't just wound the girls, you see, it wounded me. I had 5 sisters. And now those 5 sisters, two of them got married, but only one of them in a sense stayed with her husband till her husband died. They had children, but they didn't get married because see, my mother had taught them, you don't never let a man tell you what to do. You got to always be independent. You got to always keep an eye on him. He's a dog. And so then therefore, I think that my sisters, you know, took those attributes from my mother, and that's why they couldn't have a relationship. Whereas with my wife, what happened with her is that we had worked out those mama's wounds when we was 17, 18, all that type of stuff. We talked it out. So then the thing is, this is that she didn't have that type of stuff. And because of the fact that I always kept my word, then therefore she could continue to trust me. And see, that's the whole problem. That's the whole problem in most relationships today, is that the vast majority of Black women do not trust their men. And the vast majority of Black men do not see their woman as more than just, just an object. I want my wife. You heard what I said? I want my wife. I didn't say I wanted my wife. I want my wife. And I always told her, I want you. And see, this is the problem. You see, I feel so sad for my sisters, because the fact is that they don't feel wanted. See, that's why the colonizer teaches you that a good relationship in marriage depends on sex. Damn, we always been taught as Black, you always been taught that sex is natural. So our good relationships don't depend on sex. Our good relationships, if it's going to be a good relationship, has to depend on communication. And see, the settler, he began this whole idea of not allowing us to communicate. I'm sorry I'm talking so long, but he made it so we didn't communicate, because of the fact when he put us on the plantation, he rarely had on the plantation 2 people from the same tribe. And as a result, we was around there, we couldn't talk in nothing but English. And I mean, hey, look at us today, we still find it hard to communicate in English, you see? And so then what I'm saying, and so that's what the European has always done to us. He's always wanted to keep us under pressure. Remember, Bakhet taught you about the stress of the relationship. And that when you're under stress, you never have time to communicate. If your man don't have a job and he can't bring home the bacon, then you're stressful. And then if you got a job, and then he might get stupid and don't understand and respect you. And so we're always at each other's throat. We're always, in a sense, trying to attack each other. But Gina, she brought this fact about clean pain and dirty pain in pregnancy. Okay, when I used to be with my wife and we'd have our children, all the white women and the Black, oh, that motherfucker, he ain't shit. The dirty bastard, doctor! And my wife, she would be sitting there and she wouldn't say a word. And out of all this pain, she wouldn't say a word, you see. And see, my wife wouldn't say a word because she said, I want to have these children, you see. I said to myself, damn, I could care less. Shit, you were my friend first. I don't want to see them. But I love my children, and it's good to have them. I mean, because, but the point is this, that she wanted each one of my children, you see. And I think because she wanted each one of my children, then my children, when they were born, they were welcome. You know, and that's very important. But I'm quiet, I'm sorry. Talk too much.
No, not at all. Baba Winters, wow, you know, thank you so much for sharing so much of your, you know, family relationship within the context of the Black woman rune. It's been so insightful. You haven't been talking so much. It's you know, been edifying for us. You know, you've given us some of the, you know, some of the questions I had here, you've already answered. You've been sharing your wisdom with us on the Black Mother's Room. You've been giving us your perception of, you know, the relationship from your childhood to adulthood with your mother, your wife and daughter. And let me see if you've answered this one. What are some of the historically significant events that have negatively impacted Black motherhood and Black families in the diaspora?
Well, the most negative event has to be, in a sense, slavery, because see, chattel slavery, it totally disrupted the family, because see, we had to go back to what Bakhet said about lying. You see, when they allowed us on the plantation to jump the broom, we had to lie to each other. If I would have been a slave, I wouldn't have never married a woman on my plantation. Even though Massa would have wanted me to marry a woman on my plantation, I wouldn't have never wanted to marry a woman on my plantation, because see, because of the fact that Massa and anybody who came on the plantation could abuse your woman, then therefore, in a sense, you were in a constant state of denial, you see. Your man didn't even have sex with your wife, but if she came with a baby, and that baby was mulatto, you just accepted it, you know. I mean, my mother and them, they used to talk about, you know, Mary Jean or Barbara Ann, who worked in some white man's house, and then the white man raped her, and then she had a child, and everybody said, well, that's your brother, you see, that's your family. And so see, we constantly, because of slavery, we grew up with this whole idea of lying to each other, and this whole idea of lying to each other has been a hindrance to communication. See, you can't be a liar and then expect your woman to trust you. See, remember, when you first meet a woman as a man, I'm talking from a man perspective. When you first meet a woman, you see, the Black woman is the most beautiful thing on the planet Earth. And not just because she's beautiful physically, she's beautiful also mentally. But see, so when you meet that Black woman, you see, you know, she automatically wants to trust you, because she wants to trust you because she's been conditioned, and she has that genetic memory of the fact is that all we had on the plantation was each other. And because she has that genetic memory that all she had was a Black man, then therefore she's ready to trust you. And remember, most of our women, you know, are baby mamas, and many of them are baby mamas not because they were whores. They're baby mamas because they trusted that guy, and that guy left them, and that guy proved to be untrustworthy. And so then therefore, in a sense, it created a negativity. And see, this is the whole point, is that you have to, in a sense, you have to move away. But see, that man reacted in that way because of his father and his uncles. When you gonna get a girlfriend? When they really saying, when you gonna get some PUSSY? That's the first word I learned to spell. The first word I learned to spell at school was PUSSY, because it's written all over the damn building and in the bathroom. What PUSSY? Don't ask me that, boy. You're 5 years old and you went to school. What's PUSSY? You don't know what the hell that is. Nobody tell you what it is. Later you find out. But the whole point is this, is that a woman is more than a vagina. A Black woman is more than a vagina. But if you've been conditioned to see always a woman as a vagina is very difficult. But see, that's why you find all these mixed up Black guys, you know, like TJ Holmes and the rest of them. See, they look at TV and they say, oh, you know, the white woman, oh, she should be treated gentle. She should be treated all nice. Because see, look, the white man teach you right away how to treat a Black woman. When you look at TV, he has the blonde woman and he has the black-haired woman. Okay, and the blonde woman, she's always weak and gentle and all that type of shit, you know. But the black-haired woman, she's so strong. She loves the man, but she'll give the man up for the blonde woman. So, see, remember, everything is an agenda, moves a man. So that teaches you that anything with black hair or Black, they're supposed to, in a sense, be stepped on like a piece of shit. You see, whereas the blonde or the light skin, they're supposed to be treated better. When I grew up, you know, when I grew up, I said, damn, I don't see no dark-skinned women with any houses. What the hell is this? See, so I thought you had to be a light-skinned woman for your husband to buy your house. You know, later I found out, even though my father had been in the military and they should have gave him a GI loan, they wouldn't give Black men, they wouldn't give Black soldiers loans, all that type of bull. But I grew up with that idea. Then my father, when I was little, my father said, I said, why didn't you ever buy a house? He said, Clyde, whenever you buy a house, that white man gonna fire you off your job. I said to myself, my daddy talk a lot of BS. I didn't say that out loud because he would have knocked to the moon. Wow. So in 1979, I bought our first house. And I got laid off. I said, damn, my old man was telling the truth. He was telling the truth. And then the lady next door to me, when she moved in, you know, her boyfriend lost his job. But see, and so he disappeared. But you know, my father always taught me. He said, Clyde, a man takes care of his family. He said, therefore, no matter what happened, you take care of your family. He said that your money is her money and her money is her money. And he taught me in a sense that sometimes you don't hear and you don't listen. See, and so then he taught me in a sense that you can't take everything. See, a woman, especially a Black woman, she'll call you every damn name in the damn book and make you feel you're not a child of God. But see, as a man, you learn how to let that go in this ear and come out the other, you see? Because you don't internalize stuff like that. Because see, that's part of a mother's wound. That's part of a mother's wound. She's talking a lot of stuff, but you shouldn't internalize it. You better not tell her the truth. If you tell her what you're thinking, hell, you'll hear that the rest of your life. But again, as I said, is that's what Bakhet has done. What Bakhet has done is that we have our Francis Wellesley, we have our Amos Wilson, and they talked about stuff from a clinical perspective. But what Bakhet did is that Bakhet, she did an observation. And when she made this observation of what Black mamas did, she in a sense told us what they did. But not only does Bakhet tell you the problems that come from a mother's wound, she also gives you the mechanism. She gives you the way to get over this. And it's hard. It's hard. I don't care, all of y'all out there listening. You can say whatever bullshit, say whatever BS you want to say. You can say, I'm okay, you're a damn lie. None of us are okay. My kids might be okay because my wife didn't go around saying a nigga ain't and all that type of stuff. And because my wife didn't do that type of stuff, you see? You know, when I got married, I told my wife, she said, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, blah, 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 blah. I said, no, we're not, we're gonna take each day at a time. We're gonna take each day at a time. And I told my wife, I'm gonna whoop them with ironing cords. I'm gonna whoop them with thick belts. And I said, I told her everything I was gonna whoop them with. And my wife said, no, you're not gonna whoop them like that. I said, my mom and daddy whooped me like that. You know, whip that nigga, put some whaps on him. And then my wife said, no, you're not going to do that. You can whoop them, but you don't. You just spank them. Oh, I want to be like my mommy and my daddy. I want to be like them. She said, no, you can't do that. My wife, I said, okay, I'll do that. And then she said, when they get 14, you have to talk to them. I said, what the hell I got to talk to them? My mama didn't talk to me. She said, you got to talk to them. And then later you might have a relationship later in life. And she was right. By me learning to talk to them, then today I can talk to them. Today we can communicate, you see? You know, luckily my sons, I told my sons, I got 5 sons. I told them when they were growing up, I said, I'll always love you. But I said, I don't want to just love you. I want to respect you. And I said, the only way I can respect you is if you be a man. And that means that if you find a wife, then you have to take care of your family. And I'm happy to say to my sons, take care of their families. They take care of their wives. You know, I mean, well, anyway, they get along, they're happy. And see, you know, and so then I think they're happy because my wife was laissez-faire, because she wasn't judgmental. Plus she made me do the discipline so she could look like she was nice. And I look like the bad guy. But so again, in a sense, yes, it's very important to understand that Bakhet, her book will help you to know who you are. Her book will help you to examine the pain, and it's a lot of pain. It's a lot of pain, you see? You know, when I was growing up, and I mean, even when I went away to college, I said, what are all these people talking about? Their mamas is this, and their mama is that, and their mama's so nice. And you know, when Mother's Day come, you got to get a Mother's Day card. I said, hell, my mother was mean. My mother didn't make me feel that she loved me. I didn't understand at that time that black women are not taught to say they love anybody. I could tell my wife I loved her, and she could tell me that she loved me. But my mother and them, my mother and grandmother and them, it looked like that wasn't in their vocabulary. I don't know about you guys out there. So one day I was talking to my sister, my sister's friend. So we was talking. I said, my mother did this, my mother did that. You know, when I was teaching before I retired, I taught at Lincoln School out in the suburbs. And so then I had a lot of Spanish students. And so all the Spanish kids say, yeah, my mother, she throw that shoe. Bam. She throw a shoe at you. And so then all of them said that was what their mothers did. So when I was talking to my sister's friend, I said, hell, when I was growing up, whatever was nearest my mother, knife, whatever, she threw it at you. I said, damn, that's why I had those good moves playing linebacker in college and high school, because I was getting away from that. And you know, she said, my mother did the same thing. My mother grabbed whatever she said. Your mother didn't do that. She said, yeah, my mother did the same thing. Whatever was near, she threw it at you. I said, dang, I don't know. And you know, my mother used to say all those things about, I can kill you, I brought you in this world, I can kill you. I said, she said, my mother used to do that too. No, see, what the hell is this? You mean my mother wasn't strange? You mean my mother was just a Black mother? And so then therefore, when Bakhet has written this book on the mother's womb, she's telling you something. I'm telling you, any guy out there, you better read this book, you better buy this book, and you better do the exercises, because you're wounded too. See, and until you sit down and talk to your woman or your man about your wound, you will never be healthy. You will never be healthy. And growing up in America, we've been taught not to talk to our women. Even though our women want to talk to us, we've been taught not to talk to our women. I'll admit I did teach my kids how to say, and then I'll just remember something brief. But the point is this, is that we need to have good conversations. See, that's the whole point. I remember when I was at university. And so this is before I got married, you know. And so then, because she wasn't 18 yet and she hadn't graduated from high school. So I came home from university and I was saying, well, so-and-so was this, Jeannie was like this, Mary was like that. And I said, blah, blah, blah. And then my wife said, Clyde, what about me? What about you? I mean, what? But see, that was deep because she was saying, because of the fact that I'm talking about all these other girls, what about your girl? And see, that's our problem. That's what happens, you see, is that we're always talking about some other woman instead of thinking about the woman that we have with us. And so sometimes we stray away. We stray away. You see, I remember when I used to be in positions where I had a little authority. Not that these women, picking stuff off. Oh, let me pick that off. Damn, I knew they wanted me. But the whole point is this, that didn't mean I had to go ahead and be like T.J. Holmes and just screw the whole place. Because see, the whole point is this, is that I learned when I met my wife, I learned it's a difference between making love, making love, and having sex. Okay. When I was at university, you could tell, when you went past, I was in a dorm that it was a mixed dorm where you had boys and girls. So at first, at the beginning of the year, you see these girls and they would have their beds separate. Then probably by December, you see a lot of them pushing their bed together. So, they became gay, Okay. And so I learned early in a sense that a lot of times when we become friends with people, a lot of times, especially when you get friends with the opposite sex, or sometimes if you don't watch out even between people of sex, you feel that to love somebody, when you really care a lot about somebody, you're supposed to have sex with them. No, that's just having sex. That's just making love. That's just having sex, But then in a sense, when you're with somebody who you really care about, then you begin to make love. And when you're making love, that's when you're trying to share with your partner and your partner's trying to share with you. You see, and then over time, because of the fact that you feel so happy about your relationship, then you can love other people because you begin to see that you can love somebody and not have to have sex with them. And see, this is the thing, this is one of the reasons why to have a good relationship, it has to be a man, a male, and a female figure. Why do I say that? If you look at the good relationships, even in the good relationships when they're homosexual, one plays a role of the woman, another one plays a role of the man. So you still see they're still playing gendered roles. Like we got the mayor of Chicago, Lightfoot. She's married to a woman, and what did she say? She said she got the biggest dick. I don't know how she got one. She got the biggest dick in Chicago. What the hell is this? See, but see, that's because she plays the man role. She always dresses up as a man. So then therefore, you see, the reason that most of us have bad relationships is that we do not make our mate talk to us. We don't make our partner talk to us. We talk on the surface. See, we talk on the surface. We need to talk about those wounds our mothers gave us. They gave us some terrible wounds. But as long as we don't talk about them in a relationship, it's easy to move on. When I was a teenager, I never quit a girl. See, I wasn't a fool. I never say I quit you. I just wouldn't come around you or talk to you because at an early age, I understood that women are the mother goddess. You don't want her to preoccupy with, hey, he quit me. And so if she occupied with saying she quit you, then therefore she's going to want to see you effed up. I didn't want to be effed up. So I wouldn't say I quit you. But she knew it, but she couldn't focus on me. See, the whole point is this, is that the men run away from communicating because if they communicate, they're going to have to put down their shield. If a man has to communicate, he's going to have to open up to you. And when he opens up to you, he's going to be what he is. You're weak for your mama. If you're weak for your mama, you're going to be weak for your woman. But at the same time, you're going to be weak for your woman most women are looking in a relationship for leadership from a man. That don't mean they want that man to tell them everything to do. Don't you dare try to tell me everything to do. I won't do it. What did you say, baby? I ain't gonna do it. See, so you got to have leadership. You got to have communication so that there can be prodding and you can communicate. See, like my wife, when I did stupid stuff, she didn't say in front of the people, Clyde, that was the stupidest thing you could have done, you dumb person. She waited till I got home and said, that was the stupidest thing you've done. You dumb. See, but that's because of the fact in the sense that that's that whole point, but we carry so many wounds from our mothers. And sometimes we carry from my father, like my father, you know. I was talking to my auntie, I said this story many times, I'm gonna tell it again. I was talking to my Aunt Swain. And I used to like my Aunt Swain because, you know, growing up in Chicago, you know, Black people, they had to find a way to make money, so they had policy. So when they had policy, then therefore, in the sense they could win some money, that became the lottery that they have today. And so my mother would have a pity pat game every Friday, and it would go throughout all the people in the family, you know, my aunties and all that, and their friends. And so, you know, people would come to the house and they would gamble. And so my wife, whenever she would come, she would get drunk and she'd want to strip. So you're a little kid, woo, whoa, whoa. So then, my auntie, my swear you could talk to her about anything. So I was talking to her, you know, one day, and I said, you know, my father, I said, I got a wife. I take care of my wife and my kids. I got 2 degrees. That's when I only had a master's and a BA. I got 2 degrees. I played football so he could come and see me and be proud of me. And I said, but my father, he's not happy. And then I said, I don't understand why he's not happy. He said, Clyde, because he wants you to get some white PUSSY. I said, what? She said, you went to college. You was around all those white girls. You know why? He wanted you to have sex with them. Maybe even marry them, you know? And so then I couldn't understand that because, but see, he had a right to feel the way he felt. But I thought I did everything to please him. But just because I didn't go and get a white girl, then that was bad, you know? And so it's just to show you how even with your fathers or your mothers, they can have warped ideas. You know what I'm saying? You know, like my grandmother. You know, she said that I like Diane. She's a beautiful girl. I know. I said I know that. But he said, but you know, don't you think you'd want to get one a little lighter? You know, bring back the old Winter style. Because on my father's side, they were you know, they had been enslaved. They were mulattoes. On my mother's side, and even a little bit my grandmother, they were Choctaw Indians, you know. So they wanted it to be brightened up. And I mean, it was the same thing in Jamaica. You know, they want you to get a light-skinned woman or a light-skinned man so you could improve the race. But the thing is that was kind of so interesting to me, is that he wanted me to get that forbidden fruit that he couldn't get, you see. But I learned when I was at university, I saw a lot of those basketball players, they go at those white girls, and then if you quit a white girl, she'll say you raped her. And that was it. You went to jail. So you couldn't quit them. You went to jail. And so then I didn't understand that. But again, when my sons went away to college, said, don't be messing with them white girls, you know. I don't know what they did. But the whole point is this, is that they didn't marry them. So they married Black women. So, hey, I must have did something right. But again, like I said, is that you have to get the Black mother's wound, because even as a Black man, you're still carrying wounds.
Thank you so much, Dr. Clyde Winters, for all that sharing. It's beautiful.
Too much.
No, it's wonderful. We love your stories. We could listen to you all evening. I can't believe we're already over 3 hours into today's program. Wow. Brother Winters, you, as always, a phenomenal guest. Thank you so much for the support that you have provided. Thanks for sharing your perspective on the book and for encouraging everyone to buy. Wow, it's just, it brings out so much understanding, doesn't it, of, you know, our mothers and what they had to go through during their time, and the baggage that they were carrying from their previous generations, and how that's handed down, and the impact that it has on their sons and their daughters as well. So much, you know, food for thought and insightfulness. And yeah, and I think maybe a similar book is needed for some of our fathers as well in some of our lives, especially those of us from the Caribbean background, you know, because our fathers had particular roles and our mothers had particular roles as well. And yeah, I didn't understand my father until I was in my adult years. And I'd actually gone to Jamaica and got an understanding of his background and where he was coming from. And I think sometimes, unless we put ourselves in our parents' shoes, you know, we just don't have that understanding. But through the book, we can acquire that understanding. Well, family, well, we're getting ready to close down now. If you look to the chat, you will see that our sister Marie has been regularly posting, and in there, you've got the links to the book, The Black Mother Wound. Please do copy the link. Make sure you go to Amazon, buy the book, buy. It's the festive season that's coming up. Some will be celebrating Kwanzaa, some of you will be celebrating Christmas. Do consider getting the book, a workbook for your sister, for your friends, and for your loved ones. And as Dr. Winters was saying, you know, that book is for the men as well. It's for the husbands, it's for the brothers, it's for the fathers as well. So much that they can learn, and it will help them to understand the Black mother as well. Wow, when you consider all of the pressures that we're under as Black women, you know, it's as if we have no entitlement and we have to wear and carry all these labels. But your book, Bakhet, absolutely phenomenal. Can I bring you back at this stage, Bakhet, to make some final remarks? I know you had a book that you wanted to give away. I don't know how you wanted to do it. Was it a competition? Do you want someone to answer a question in the chat, and you take it from there? Please, let's get that book giveaway sorted and have you give some final words for today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Baba, so much. I so enjoy your wisdom. I could sit and just listen for hours, but I know that other people have life going on. And thank you so much, Sister Shanice, for hosting us today and facilitating and bringing it all together. Thank you to my beautiful sister Medina and Maria for supporting and keeping the chat going and sharing the dialogue and keeping it all together. And of course, thank you to the audience. Thank you so much for everybody who showed up and supported. The video will be streamed on my YouTube channel, so subscribe and like. Definitely some great holiday gifts here. So go ahead and order the book. What I will be doing is I will be selecting someone at random from the Eventbrite registration. We have 20 confirmed reservations. So I will put the names on a little post-it note, drop them in a hat, pull one out, and I will be sending you a book, and I will notify you by email by December 15th. So that is 4 days from now. So check your email 4 days from now, and I will just follow up and send everybody a nice little message to say thank you and send you some links to this video on YouTube, so you can check it out again if you'd like to, and let you know who won. So we'll keep it above board so everybody knows somebody won. And yes, and thank you to everybody for your time today. So I think we're going to go ahead and break. But I just wanted to say not only thank you to all of you, but thank you to our ancestors who are active in this moment and participating in this moment. And I want to acknowledge their gift to us in the elements, within ourselves, without ourselves. Thank you for the air, the fire, the water, the earth. Thank you for bringing us all together in health and well-being. And I'd like to say peace and shalom over all of your households and all those you care for. And I hope that you have a wonderful holiday and that you stay healthy and well and balanced and centered. And thank you all.
We thank you for your dedication and your commitment and this phenomenal book that is going to help so many women, so many men and families as well. Thank you, Sister Bakhet. Thank you to everyone in the audience. Thank you to the entire team who's helped to pull this day together. It's been a great day. Thank you. More love, more strength, more power to each and every one of you. Sister Shanice out of here, and honor again, Sister Bakhet. Thank you. Bye for now.